Assalamu alaikum girls. Welcome to the second lesson of this week, which is on output devices. This will be your last topic that will be included in your midterm assessment. Inshallah, your next lesson will be on revision so that you have some preparation for your first midterm assessment of this year. So starting off, let's see what this section 2.3 on output devices is all about. In this lesson, we are going to identify the output devices and what their uses are. We are going to look at some monitors, some printers, some speakers and so on, and we will try to describe the advantages and disadvantages of the above. As the success criteria for this lesson, you should minimum be able to identify the purpose of different output devices, and then you should be able to point out the uses of each device, and as a challenge you should be able to compare their advantage and disadvantage as well. As a starter for today, let's try to think of what three different output devices we have in our ICT lab. So when you think about it, the monitor in our labs are output device, the printer is an output device, the projector you see is the output device. All of these are some examples of output devices in our lab. What are output devices? They are hardware devices that allow information to be sent out of the computer system. Notice the term out here. Output devices, data sent out. Some examples are laser printers, inkjet printers, projectors, all kinds of monitors, speakers and so on. So we will be looking at each of these devices in detail today and learning some subtypes. When we start to look at monitors, they are basically of three categories. One is CRT. CRT is the kind of monitors that have a big side at the back. TFT, this will look like this, and LCD or LED, which is what we are currently most commonly using. The CRT or the cathode ray tube monitor is used for primary output display of computers in the past. It used to be very common during the time computers were invented and introduced inside the house. They are cheaper than other monitors and you can use them with light pen and resolution is good. But as you can see, because they have a big back side, the size is much bigger, heavier and requires a lot of space on the desk, and also used to generate a lot of heat. The improvement over the CRT was the TFT, which is a thin film transistor monitor. It then took over from CRT because it took up less space and was smaller on the desk, and it also consumed less power, which meant that heating was not as much as a CRT, but the resolution might not have been as good as a CRT, which was the disadvantage. Moving on, the most common types of monitors we have now are the LCD and the LED. LCD stands for liquid crystal display or liquid crystal diode. This is again a development over the TFT, where in the front layer the monitor is made up of liquid crystal diodes of three colors, red, green and blue. So this is why you see small resolution dots of red, green and blue if you carefully look at it. The most common one we have now are the LED monitors. This is a development over the LCD where backlit technology is used. They are mostly used outdoors for store signs, destinations and billboards, and they produce better light, which improves the color definition, which makes them better to be able to be used outdoors. And also in general, all LEDs are energy efficient and last for a longer time. So this means it takes up less electricity. But the disadvantage is that over the other type of monitors, because this is an improvement, it is more expensive compared to the other monitors. So that's it, the four monitors for you. Now we think about what is the other kind of monitor we have. A touch screen is a very common output device, but we have to remember that a touch screen is both an input device and an output device. When you go to a mall, you have the information panel, that is a touch screen, and very often when you go to some restaurants like McDonald's, they have the menu on a touch screen and so on. A touch screen is basically any computer display screen that is also an input device. So, touch screen is the one example of something that is both input and output. How do you interact with it? By using your finger or a special pen. This can be on the mobile phone, tablet, any terminals you see. All of these are examples of touch screen. The advantage of having a touch screen is that you don't need any additional input devices or buttons, and the menu and interface is generally very easy for uh, customers to use, and zooming in, rotation, all of these are possible. The disadvantage is that because it is touch screen, it could get dirty and damaged if overused, and it is difficult to input high volumes of information using a touch screen as compared to a keyboard. The other output device we want to discuss today is a projector. When we think of a projector, we think of the one we have in our classroom. Multimedia projector is used whenever we want to project signals from the screen. This is used in classrooms, offices, anywhere where training and presentations are done, in cinema systems and so on. The advantage is that the output resolution might not be as good as a screen, and the obstacles can affect it. So, if you have your hand in front of it, this can affect what comes on the board, and it is expensive to buy and difficult to set it up. The disadvantage is that you can all gather around one screen. Note girls, this advantage and disadvantage is actually swapped. This is the disadvantage and this is the advantage. The advantage is that you can have it on a big screen, so many people can view rather than having just a monitor, and users are mainly focusing on one screen in the classroom, which is what we need. But as we discussed, the disadvantage is that the output resolution might not be very good and obstacles can come in the way. Now, one of the main output devices, which again has further categories, is a printer. When we talk about printer, there are 5 types of printers that you need to know as part of your syllabus, which includes laser printers, inkjet printers, dot matrix printers, 3D printers, and wide format printers. So, let us go into each one by one. The laser printer is what is most commonly used in our labs, and you might have one at home or you have seen them in offices. These are used when high output volumes are required. So, why do we have them in the lab? Because when we have IGCSE exams, you will have to print out papers. So, we need high output. What is the advantage? It is high quality and the printing is very fast. So, there is no lag even though there is a high volume of printing. And the toner of a laser printer also lasts much longer, which makes it cost effective, and it is a quiet printing, which makes it suitable for schools and offices. Girls, make sure you pay very good attention to the underlined words here, because these are the main differences between the printers. What is the disadvantage of a laser printer? It is more expensive than inkjet printers, and the toner might end up being more expensive as well. The inkjet printer, on the other hand, is used when low output volume is required, but you want it to be high quality printing. It is cheaper to buy. So, if you go to a shop and compare the price of inkjet and laser printers, inkjet is always cheaper and it is smaller in size, it fits on your desk. So, maybe this is what you have at home. But the ink cartridge runs out very quickly. You would know this if you have had experience using it, and the printing is very slow. It prints line by line and comes out very slow. So, mostly it is used for home use, to print homework or single images and so on. A dot matrix printer is what you have seen when you go to pay your fees in the reception. A dot matrix printer is a kind of printer which uses a print head which is pressed against an inked ribbon and it moves back and forth. So, that is why you have noticed it is quite noisy. It goes to one side and then goes to the other side and so on. It is used basically for receipts and wherever carbon copies or duplicates are required. So, you can have, when you paid your fees for books, you would have known there is a white paper in the front and the exact same carbon copy blue paper at the back and so on. The advantage is that it is not affected by hot or dusty environment, and it can print carbon copies, which none of the other printers are doing, and it is cheap to run and maintain, so that is why you will see it in shops. The disadvantage is that it is very slow printing and poor quality, and as you know from shopping malls, it is quite noisy as well. The fourth kind of printer we are discussing is a wide format printer. They are used, as the name suggests, for wide and large printouts. Where would you need large printouts? For banners, billboards, any big posters, any big photographic competition, and so on. The advantage is that it is high resolution printing, so your printing is of very high quality and it will be very large, and this is used by companies for their commercial purposes, and this makes it generally expensive. The last kind of printer we are discussing is important for your curriculum as well. This is a 3D printer. A 3D printer, unlike the other printers which print in 2D, can print actual solid objects. How does it do that? By building layers upon layer. So, for example, to print this skull, this layer is printed first, then the second layer, third layer, and so on until the actual solid object is made. Where might you need this? In many applications. To make prosthetic limbs. So, for example, someone has lost an arm or a leg in an accident and they want to make a limb, or any manufacturing parts. It's got lots of medical applications. So, 3D printers can be used to print out ears and noses and so on. It's used in construction to create certain parts and fashion also. What is the advantage? You can make customized products with it, and once the prototype is made, it can be printed quickly, and even parts that are no longer manufactured in a factory can be made using a 3D printer. And like I said, artificial organs, ear, nose, etc. can be created as well using bio ink. What is the disadvantage of a 3D printer? Somebody could look at what product you have and another company could make the exact same product if they get the blueprint, and this can also be used to make dangerous objects like guns and so on, and this is the most expensive type of printer among all of them. Now, as a task, let's try to fill in these blanks. We have inkjet printer, laser printer, dot matrix, wide format and 3D printer, all the 5 kinds of printers, and we want to be able to fill in these blanks with the words below. So, let's first look at inkjet printer. What did we say was the quality of an inkjet printer? Inkjet printers had low quality. Inkjet printers have high quality, but they are used for low volumes only. It is used for low volumes, and the printer is cheaper to buy. So, we know it is cheaper, not very expensive, and the ink runs out very quickly. So, this is the disadvantage that we have. Whereas the laser printer, the one we have in school, is a high quality printer used in offices, and it is used to print high volumes also. So, it is a high quality, high volume, where inkjet printer was high quality with low volume. So, volumes go here. Printing is dash and dash, lasts long time compared to inkjet printer. We know the printing is fast in a laser printer, that is why we use it in our lab for exams, and dash lasts long time compared to inkjet printer. So, we know this is talking about the toner. A dot matrix printer, the one used in shops, is a low quality printer for sure. It is the only one that can print carbon copies. So, the word carbon goes here. It prints on continuous multi-part stationery. That means it can print on continuous paper. You have seen this paper is a continuous roll, right. A wide format printer, we know, was the name is wide format printer. It is used whenever you have large printing, yeah. So, large format printing, and it is a high resolution printing. It is used for billboards, signboards, posters and so on. The next one we have is a 3D printer. It can produce actual solid objects in 3D, and it is building layer upon layer. Also, one of its application is that parts can be created which are no longer manufactured. Now, going back to our slide, we are done with that task. We have a couple of other output devices to discuss as part of your syllabus as well. So, some of these you can see here. A speaker is an output device that outputs sound from presentations or can play audio files and so on. A motor is an example of another output device. The motor is used in washing machines, any water pumps and so on. The buzzer is an example of another output device. It is used anywhere where you want to output sound. So, for example, in an alarm system you might have this at home, or cookers and microwaves. The microwave beeps a sound after it's done, right. A heater is also an output device. It gives out heat. So, it is used in washing machines when you want to heat the water, or in heaters in houses, or to control the temperature in an oven and so on. The last output device you have is a light or a lamp. The output here is light. It is used in security lights and to control lighting in glass houses. I have a short plenary quiz for you, and that will be the end of this lesson. So, let us try to complete the questions in this plenary. In this BBC bite-sized plenary quiz, the first question is asking us, which is the most suitable input device for inputting a short report? Something that's short, you would use a keyboard for it. What is the most suitable input device for highlighting or selecting an object on the screen? So, for highlighting and selecting, the mouse is the easiest thing for us because joystick is difficult to use. Which of these can be used to digitize a paper photograph? Digitizing can be done by a scanner. What is MICR? Magnetic ink character recognition. MICR, you know, is the one on checks, the bottom of checks. Which of these would you not use an OMR? Optical mark reader. Optical mark reader is the one used for multiple choice exams and voting, so we don't need it for barcodes. Which of these is another name for CPU? CPU is also called your processor because CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. Which of these is not a type of computer monitor? We already saw LCD and CRT are monitors, so this one. Which of these printers would you use to print a wage slip? Wage means salary slip using carbon paper. We saw today the only printer among the 5 printers which can do carbon copies is a dot matrix printer. Which will be used by an architect to print large plans? So, probably a laser printer. Let us try this option. And which will be suitable, sorry, it will be a plotter. Which will be suitable, this is not in your syllabus anymore. Which of these printers will be most suitable for high quality black and white printing? That would be a laser printer. That is why we use it in the ICT labs. Let us check our score. Okay, we have managed to get it all right. That is all for today, girls. Make sure you study well for your midterm assessment. That will be based on chapter 1 and chapter 2. You will have a revision lesson this week discussing some questions as well. Thank you, girls. Assalamu alaikum.